Today I want to present on what I call a simple philosophy with the hope to inspire the world. No small feat, but inspire the world to do what, which would be the question, and inspire the world to go out and live their dream life, to do what it is they know in their gut, their soul, their feelings, their emotions, their spirit, whatever that element they tap into, to go do what they know they're made for on this planet. And what's interesting is all of us have those inklings, those feelings, those moments in life where you see something or you hear something or you feel something, and you're like, oh man, I've always wanted to try that. I've always wanted to do that. Oh, I would be so good at that. But then there's the rest of the conversation that happens between that moment and the moment of doing it that sets a great majority of people away from living the life of their dreams or constantly thinking about the life of their dreams. Would that be fair to say? For the most part. And in saying that, I think there's only three things that really set someone apart. And it's a three-part philosophy, which is right on the screen behind me, which is really simply the way most people learn things. And the only way I would overestimate to say that this is what I think it is because I grew up in an industry that inspires people to live their dreams. Literally, my very first personal development event was in my mom's belly. She was going through a seminar teaching people how to break through their fears. So I would say through osmosis, I picked something up through that. My first fire walk in my dad's arms was 3 months old, and it brought me all the way to where I am today, watching these philosophies being taught to people and always looking for what's the difference. Why do some of the people show up at an event like that, take something, immediately use it, go live the life of their dreams and show other people how to do the same? While other people go to those events, get all inspired, all fired up, excited, leave, and 6 months later come attend again because nothing changed. Like, what happened there? Why did some make it and some didn't? And my belief is they followed this philosophy but didn't get the middle piece, which is so important. They got the first step, which was they learned all the tools they needed. They understand it cognitively in their mind. They didn't get the second step. They didn't actually go live what it took to actually close that gap from where they are to where they want to be. But their heart was so big, they were so inspired that they immediately wanted to jump to step 3, which is I learned something so great and I want to share it with everybody. The only challenge with that is people stare at you and they say, wow, your actions speak so loud, I can't hear a word coming out of your mouth. You're telling me all these amazing things you learned, but you're not doing any of them. Why in the world should I trust you? Versus those people who went out and lived it, their actions were speaking so loud, they started to inspire the world around them without even knowing it. They never once went to go preach or tell someone around them, here's what you have to do, or try this, or do this. They were just doing it so much, people were like, dang, I got to try that. Because it was working, it was getting the result. And I started to realize, wow, what caused people to miss out on that middle step, which is living it? They learned it, they wanted to give it, but they never lived it. And I said, well, let me rewind and figure out where am I? Because I was guilty of this as well. I learned so many great things growing up that I immediately wanted to share it with everybody. And I even built a business originally around this concept until I started to realize that the gaps I had were based on the fact that I wasn't really applying some of these things that I had learned. So right now, everything I'm about to share with you, I'd ask you to ask yourself 3 questions consistently throughout the whole presentation. 1, how well do I know this? Do I know this information he's telling me right now cognitively? Do I know this information enough that I'm living it physically in my behavior? Or do I know this information enough that because I'm living it so much, so congruently, so consistently, that I'm literally giving it to the community around me and inspiring them to do their own piece of it by living it so much in my life? How well do you know it? Do you just know it? Do you live it? Or are you literally giving it because you're living it so well? The first thing I looked for is my thought is, what's going on in the world nowadays, around the world, first world, third world, second world countries, developing nations, what's going on in all these people's minds? And so I went and traveled around and started to pay attention, and there was a quote that stood out that I saw. When the Dalai Lama was asked what confused him most, what was so interesting to him, he said, the most interesting thing to me is modern day man. They trade all of their life to try to get money, only to spend all of their money to try to get their life back. Not only that, they spend all their time so anxious about what's going to happen next that they never experience now. And they live every day as if they're never going to die, only to die never have really lived. And I thought about that. I said, wow, that's so true. And I said, is it just true in modern day first world nations? I said, yeah, it's definitely true there. And then I took a trip around the world and started seeing how the rest of the world lives. And I remember being a village in Uganda with no running water, no toilets, no electricity. And in that own village, there were still people so concerned with status, so concerned with trying to get the next cool thing, so concerned with all these stuff that they weren't even experiencing the beauty of life that they had. There was a village I went and visited in Panama. And while we were visiting, it's such a beautiful, peaceful place. And while we were there, one of the people who brought us said, you know what's so interesting? This village will no longer exist in 10 years. I said, why is that? And they said, because the young people don't value the beauty of what they have here. The connection, the family, the community. They don't value it. They see what all these other people have in their standard schools and all these other places, and that's what they're trying to get out of here to go do. This will not exist in 10 years. And it made me stop and think, what are the cherished, magical, incredible things we have in our lives right now that we pay no attention to because we're so busy trying to get the next thing, status, job, promotion, the next level, that 10 years from now, those magic moments, those incredible people, those incredible experiences or opportunities will no longer exist, only because we don't take time to notice them. And in looking at that, I looked around and I said, what are the major lessons that people have literally forgotten about in society nowadays? Young people in particular. And when I say young, I mean 50 years old or younger. You're still young if you're in your 50s. So if you're 50 years old or younger, I think it's fair to say that a lot of people have forgot about a handful of these lessons I'm about to share with you. First lesson, lesson number one, is what I call hard work. I think most people, young people, 50 years old or younger, have forgotten what true hard work is. And when I mean hard work, I mean the type of work, and I'll give you an example how I went and learned it. Type of work that you wake up like I did at 4:30 in the morning, you go, you work out in the gym to get ready for the day, you eat breakfast, you get in the car, you drive to the side of the freeway, you get picked up by a van of other workers, you drive an hour to this lumber yard, you get out, you stack lumber all day, you keep going even when you're tired and you're like, am I done? Nope, there's another pile. And you stack lumber all day, you come home physically, mentally, emotionally exhausted, you go to the gym, work out, eat dinner, pass out, do it again 6 days a week for 3 months. In the beginning, it's easy. Hard work is easy in the beginning. It's a challenge. You're proving something to someone. You're showing people how tough and strong and capable you are. It's the halfway point that kills people. It's not the boulder. It's the pebbles. The boulder is the big opportunity to show yourself what you're capable of. The pebble is that moment halfway through a hard job where you start thinking stuff like, I'm better than this. I should get paid more than this. I can't take that job. I have a degree in something. And you start to tear down the opportunity in front of you instead of learning about leadership. Leadership says, not you live in my kingdom, therefore I'm in charge of you. Leadership says, you live in my kingdom, therefore it's my job to serve you. People who want to be leaders of companies don't realize you have to start with the mindset that if I'm going to get under this company, I have to be able to put everything on my shoulders and work every aspect of this to know that I can. Not that you have to stay there, but to know that you can provide those opportunities. You can step up and deliver in the moments needed. I looked back at hard work, and halfway through, I started to not love it anymore. And my question became, not only how do you make it through hard work, but how do you fall in love with hard work? Because if you listen to anyone who's made it, according to all these people who've done incredible things, whether it's a J.K. Rowling and her authorship story through challenges all the way up, or whether it's a mother in a village in Uganda who had to raise 3 kids on her own, she's going to tell you that it is hard work along the way. How do you fall in love with hard work? There's simple things. Number one, you have to learn how to shift your perception, how you view it, what it is you're doing. Number two, you have to shift your procedure, how you physically go about it every day to make it something exciting and fun that you can be passionate about. I did both, and all of a sudden this became the greatest job and opportunity on earth. I realized that most people in unemployed situations would kill for an opportunity like this one back here to give them the opportunity to provide for their community, fall in love with it, stepped up and delivered. From there, I said, what else would I have to learn? And I started looking around in society and realizing so many people had so much, but didn't appreciate hardly any of it. So I said, how do I appreciate having very little, but being in love with my life? So I decided to take a journey where I went and lived in a village over in Uganda, like I mentioned. In this village, you had to walk a quarter mile to a water well pump to pump water into a jerry can to carry all the way back to where you're living, to then pour into a pot, to then boil just to have drinking water. And you had to let it cool before it was ready. every day. And I realized this is how most people were living. But something magical happened while I was here that changed my whole perspective. And here's what it was. Every morning, this was where I lived, there was my hospital cot, and there was a window next to it. Every morning I woke up and pushed open these shutters right there, and I'd watch the sunrise, the most beautiful thing, the sunrise over the landscape and out of that window. It was beautiful. And every single morning when I woke up and watched the sunrise, there was this little old man that would start off at the front doorstep of the clinic right out my window, and he would inch his way down this path, clearing the leaves. He'd go all the way down the path, he'd get to the main road at the end, turn around and work his way all the way back. And every single morning, he did it. About 30 days in, I got so curious about this guy. I'm like, I want to know why he does it. So I went over there and I found someone to translate, and I asked him, I said, ask the man, why do you do what you do? And she looked at me and looked at him and said something, and he said something back, and she says, because I'm supposed to. When us Americans travel, we tend to think if they don't understand us in another language, we must not have been speaking loud enough. So I said, no, why do you do that? And the lady looked at me like, really? She looked at me and thought for a second and then looked at him and said something. And he, all of a sudden, without even speaking the language, I saw the effect I was looking for. And the effect was he went, and I was like, I don't know what he said, but that's what I'm looking for. Like that piece, the joy, the excitement, the passion behind it. Like, what was that? And she said, the reason, he said, this is interesting. And she said, the reason I do what I do from him, the reason I do what I do is I believe every human being, whether it's a small child about to enter this world or a sick or elderly person about to leave this world, deserves a clear path to do so. And I was shocked because I met someone that did something so simple that had such depth of meaning behind it. I met a man who was living his passion and changing the world in his own way simply by sweeping leaves. And I remember standing there and being in awe, thinking if I wanted to change the world, if I wanted to inspire millions, if I wanted to do all these huge things, it had to be this big, huge, giant thing. Until I realized the second lesson was learning to find deep purpose and meaning in all that you do, especially the small stuff. Because this man lived in a village with no running water, no electricity, no toilets. He was in his 80s, and he lived the most purpose-filled life of anyone I've ever met by doing little things in service to the community around him and finding deep meaning and purpose in it. While I was there, I got another lesson. This one not as nice. If you know what this is, those are blood cells, and while I was in this village, I had one of these guys land and lay this in my blood. What happens is those are eggs inside of those cells, and every 8 to 10 hours they hatch and do this to the cell. Eesh, not good. And by the time I made it to the doctor, I was stubborn, saying, I believe in holistic medicine. I'm not going to touch your medicine. Leave me alone. I'll be fine. They said, you have about 4 to 5 days to live. And if you've ever been told that, it's a moment that'll shake your soul. Because you look around at everything you wanted to do with your life, everything you ever dreamed of, everything you ever desired, and all of a sudden in a moment you realize a really big lesson. We're not promised anything past this moment. Today, this moment, right now. There's no promise that you won't walk out of the street and get run over by a bus. There's no promise that that won't happen. There's no promise. So I started going back and saying, if I learn how to work hard, if I learn how to fall in love with life, even if I only have a little, and I learn how to do it now, what's the only piece I'm missing? I said, well, at this moment of my life, the only piece I was missing was the vision of the life I really wanted to live. So I went back to the fourth lesson. I think that if this is shared and this is lived and this is give and shared around the world, where you really not only just learn it today, but you find a way to live it and you find a way to give it, I think this philosophy might change the world. Super simple. And the final lesson I learned was really taking a moment to define and then live the life of your dreams. Because if you know what the life of your dreams looks like, and you're willing to work hard to get there, you're willing to fall in love with every single moment along the journey, and you're willing to put meaning to all those pieces, not only that, but to do it now, you can turn that dream life into real life. So the final thing I'd ask you to do is, if you would, take a deep breath. Close your eyes and imagine waking up on the morning of your absolute ideal day. Hit the sound key. Imagine waking up on the morning of your absolute ideal day. What would be the first thought that would cross your mind on that day? How much energy would you have in your body? What would be the first sight that you'd see even before your eyes opened? I mean, if you were to wake up on the morning of your absolute ideal day, who would be there with you? How would you feel? What would be possible? On that day, as you got up and went out into the world, what's the first thing you do on that perfect day? The most magical day you can think of. How would you fill the morning hours of your life from 9 a.m. till noon? What's everything you'd want to do on that perfect day? The places you want to go, the people you'd want to meet, the fun you'd want to have. What would you want to learn? What would you want to share? Here's a question. On your perfect day, what would you do for lunch? Who would you have lunch with? How much laughter, joy, fun, passion, and possibilities would surround the conversation? After lunch, what would you do on that day? What would be possible? If it was your perfect day, what's everything you'd want to accomplish? Who's everyone you'd want to share it with? On that absolute perfect day, would you take a moment to breathe in the beauty of life around you? I mean, if it was your perfect day, would you take a moment to just stop maybe and watch the sunset on that day? Listen to the sounds of life unfolding around you? I mean, if it was your perfect day, what would really be possible? Throughout that day, what would be happening in your health, your mind, your body, your emotions? What would happen in your business, your finances? What would be going on in your spiritual life? And as that perfect day unfolds before your eyes, how would you wrap up that perfect day? What would you, looking back on that day, be grateful for? Who are all the people, the opportunities, the lessons, the challenges? What are everything you'd be grateful for on that perfect day? And if it was your absolute ideal day, as you went to bed that night, what would you be excited about for the next day? Now, here's what I'd ask you to do. If you were to open your eyes, feeling that perfect day, experiencing all the magic that can unfold, I would ask you to do this. Simple challenge. Number one, learn what it takes to take that vision in your mind and make it reality. Number two, go out and live it so ferociously that you inspire those around you to do the same in their own way. And number three, find a way to give it in every way you can to pay that vision forward and help inspire that vision in other people in every way, shape, and form that you ever possibly can. Thank you.